The highly anticipated sequel to Todd Phillips' 2019 hit Joker is now out in theaters, and audiences are loving it, right? Let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Zach, and I started this YouTube channel because I cannot watch a movie without having to talk about it afterwards. If you find yourself the same way, you're in the right place. Consider hitting that subscribe button, and while you're at it, join me down below in the comment section. Let me know what you thought of Joker Folie à Deux. I'm sure you have a lot to say, as much as I do, and I'd love to hear all about it. In Joker Folie à Deux, Arthur Fleck is institutionalized at Arkham awaiting trial for his crimes as the Joker. While struggling with his dual identity, Arthur not only stumbles upon true love with another inmate, but also finds the music that's always been inside him. And despite what Lady Gaga and Todd Phillips have said, this is a full-fledged musical. And we'll talk about the musical aspects of this a little bit later in the review. Now, going into Joker Folie à Deux, first of all, big fan of the first film, really enjoy it. There's some issues with it. I'm not like 100% in love with Joker 2019, but I think it's a really good, solid, refreshing movie within the comic book genre. And I was really anticipating Joker Folie à Deux, but I was also very cautious with my optimism in this movie because it was very publicly known and said by the filmmakers Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix themselves that Joker 2019 was meant to be a standalone. But when your standalone story makes $1 billion at the box office and wins some Oscars, the studio's gonna come and knocking at your door wanting some more.
Let's face it, baby, these days, you gotta have a sequel.
And more they wanted and more they got. They got Todd Phillips to come back on board, Joaquin Phoenix to come back on board, they got Lady Gaga involved, they bumped up the budget to $200 million, and they set off on this crazy, wacky venture to make a musical movie in a comic book movie genre with a grounded story of the Joker. Two obvious mixed responses. For me, let's talk about what worked in Joker Folie à Deux. And right off the bat, you do have to mention Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga's performances in this movie because essentially, and we'll talk about a little bit why a little bit later, Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga, they are carrying this movie on their shoulders, and particularly Joaquin Phoenix. Now, Joaquin Phoenix, he's coming fresh off of his Oscar that he won for Joker 2019, playing this character again. He doesn't skip a beat. I love Joaquin Phoenix in this role. I think Joaquin Phoenix in Arthur Fleck is such a captivating and mesmerizing character because Joaquin Phoenix is able to do so much with Arthur Fleck, and there's a lot that he has to do with Arthur Fleck through his performance and his decisions as an actor to express what Arthur is going through, because we pick up in this movie he's been in Arkham for 2 years, and with that they have Arthur in this place at the start of this film that I actually thought was really fascinating because at the end of Joker 2019, when Arthur Fleck decides to put on the clown makeup, when society has put him to his breaking point, he's broken, he snaps, and he goes on the Murray Show and kills the host of that show live on television. This movie very much follows up the events and the consequences that action has on Arthur. And we see how that one moment, that one decision, that one event in Arthur's life, we see how that has impacted him in the popularity of the prison, in life in general, with the public, how he has this kind of army on the outside that has risen up that are supporters of him as the Joker. And one thing that I really liked about this movie that I thought was very subversive, but in a really good way of how they continued the story of Arthur Fleck and the Joker, is they challenge Arthur this time around of dealing with that consequence, dealing with that decision of he has pronounced himself the Joker. He has created this army that is following him, and this movie places the question on Arthur's shoulders, is he the Joker? And does he want to be the Joker? And that is the through line question that Arthur is challenged and wrestled with throughout the entire movie. And the way that the movie uses this to kind of talk about how sometimes in our culture we'll put these heinous, horrible, murderous people, kind of give them this marker of fame. We make movies about them. We talk about them in podcasts. We listen to podcasts about them, documentaries. We kind of put these horrible people in a spotlight that they don't necessarily deserve and that they shouldn't be in. And there's a lot of that questioning happening with Joker Folie à Deux, particularly when we bring in Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn, because this is a romance movie between Arthur Fleck and what this movie calls Harley Quinn. I think her actual name is like Lee Quinzel or something like that in the movie, but for the sake of the review, we'll call her Harley Quinn. And Harley Quinn is very much a fangirl for Joker, for the movement really that Arthur Fleck has caused as the Joker. And throughout the movie, she's kind of the one that manipulates and pulls the Joker, or at least pulls Arthur to the Joker's side, which I thought caused for some pretty good interplay between Arthur Fleck and Harley Quinn. The way that Harley Quinn is sort of the new inspiration for Arthur Fleck to continue down his Joker route, but while also never losing that question, that challenge of Arthur's of, is this what he actually wants? But even with all those good graces, let's talk about what didn't work in Joker Folie à Deux. And right off the bat, you got to address the elephant in the room. It's the musical sequences. The musical aspect of this film, I applaud Todd Phillips. I applaud Joaquin Phoenix for attempting it. I applaud them for trying to do something super creative and unique and different in the comic book movie genre. I mean, if you're going to come back with a sequel that you never intended to make, I'm glad they tried to do something bold and different. But with that said, it just didn't feel like they fully committed to the musical aspects. Because when you get a character like Joker, as chaotic as Joker, and then you hear that that's being meshed with a musical, you have an expectation right there of these bombastic, crazy musical numbers. And the musical numbers in this movie, they're just kind of lame. There's just mostly people singing under their breath most of the time, walking around a room. It looks like something that they came up with the day of shooting. Like Todd Phillips had a camera pointed at Joaquin Phoenix, said, sing this song and prance around the room. We'll follow you around, and that'll be the musical sequence. And a lot of the musical sequences in this movie, they're just characters standing in one place or moving around a confined area, just singing under their breath. They all sound the same. They sound redundant. There's no song in here that sticks out. There's no songs in here that are earworms that you're going to be singing along to after the movie's over. You're not going to want to download this soundtrack. In every way that a musical can fail, this movie fails as a musical, because the musical sequences in this movie, they don't even really add much to the story. They're just kind of boring and uninteresting to look at and listen to. And the thing with the movie is it is a full-fledged musical, so there's a lot of them. And there came a point in the movie where I would be really invested in a scene, and then they'd stop and start singing, and I physically felt my eyes roll when the scene stopped and they started singing. It was a creative, bold endeavor, but it just didn't work. On top of that, this movie, as much as I do appreciate some of the themes and the ideas and the direction that they decided to take the character of Arthur Fleck and have him deal with the consequences of what happened in the first movie, this movie also has a pretty thin storyline going through it. This movie's kind of split up into two different sections. The first being Arthur kind of trapped in prison, going through his daily life in prison. Then the back half of this film is very much Arthur on trial. We're dealing with the trial of the Joker. And as much as I enjoyed the trial being a stage for Arthur to have to come face to face with the consequences of his actions, the trial sequences also got a little bit dull, because a lot of them are just explaining events that we saw happen in the first film, and sometimes they even try to re-examine and re-explain things that happened in the first film that we clearly saw how they went down and how they happened in the first film, to the point that there's no suspense, there's no intense feeling when you're watching these trial court sequences, because no doubt in your mind are you like, well, you know what? Maybe they won't find him guilty. And for that reason, a lot of these court trial scenes, they just kind of drag on for a majority of it. Another big complaint I do have that I don't know if it necessarily didn't work, but Harley Quinn, Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn in this movie, while I like the intention of her character, how her character affects Arthur and the Joker, Lady Gaga's a little bit underutilized in this movie, and her character is kind of underdeveloped as well, to the point that I never really cared about Harley Quinn. I never really cared about Lady Gaga's character. I more so was just interested in how they were using her character to bring things out of Arthur. And I was kind of hoping we'd get a little bit more out of Lady Gaga going into the movie. She gave a great performance, but the character itself, I just feel like could have done more, could have been written a little bit better. But for me, the biggest thing that didn't work about this movie is the ending. Now, I can't get into it here because this is non-spoiler. We're going to do spoilers on Sunday, October 6th at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We are going to talk spoilers live, so join for that discussion if you're watching after that date. It's up on the channel. You can check it out. But the movie really loses almost all of its goodwill with me when it comes to the ending, because the ending thematically has a purpose, I think, that Joaquin Phoenix and Todd Phillips were going for and what they were trying to say. But for someone who sat through these two movies, for someone who sat through Joker 2019 and now Folie, Deux, following the character of Arthur, the way this movie ends felt like a slap in the face and made it feel like a waste of time. Because the movie, in my opinion, has a very cop-out ending, and it makes it so that the movie, Folie, Deux, doesn't really have a conclusion to a lot of the things that it set up at the beginning of the film. And even in Joker 2019, that while I can see what Todd Phillips may have been going for by doing this ending, it just left such an unsatisfying taste in my mouth, to the point that when I walked out of this movie, all I had was the ending in my mind. All the goodwill of everything that I said worked was gone, and I thought I hated this film. I thought I was going to be dogpiling on with the rest of the internet with Joker Folie, Deux. But what does that mean for my recommendation? Where does Joker Folie, Deux leave me with my experience with the film? Like I said, there's a lot of goodwill that comes with this movie. I loved the performances. I liked a lot of the creative decisions of where they took Arthur as a character and some of the ideas of the Joker in this world that they have created and established in these two films. The musical sequences, though, they just bog this movie down so hard, to the point that the pacing gets hurt. The story is nowhere near as interesting or complex as the first film, and it just kind of drags on. And when you get to that ending undoes a lot of goodwill. Now, I could see this movie being reevaluated in the years to come. Like, maybe it's a misunderstood masterpiece. I could see some people getting there. I'm personally not there. I definitely don't hate this movie. I think I like it. The more I think about it, the more things I like, but then there's more things that I don't like. It's very much like I'm taking rose petals off of a flower, saying, I love the Joker, I love him not. I love the Joker, I love him not. And by the end of the flower petal picking, the last one I'm landing on today is I love him not. Because when it comes to that ending, it just undoes a lot of good stuff. We'll talk about it later for sure. But for that reason, for my recommendation for this, I'm going to have to give Joker Folie, Deux a weak non-recommend. While it has some good things going for it, the overall end of the journey was not worth it. What did you guys think of Joker Folie, Deux? Comment down below. Be sure to join me for that spoiler discussion on Sunday, October 6th at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can catch more content right over there if you're watching this after October 6th. The spoiler discussion replay is right over there. Check it out. Thank you guys, as always, for watching. I'll talk to you guys again real soon. Bye-bye.